often you'd be on the ground, not knowing what the day had in store. Occasionally there was a pre-planned target where you could look at that the day before, go and fly the mission, conduct the strike and then fly home. But most of the time you were just on call. And some days you were called into action as soon as you crossed the border. The JTAC would be screaming on the radio, "We need help over here right now." And you'd rush over, perhaps conduct a strike straight away, and there'd be another JTAC calling, and you'd be a couple of hundred miles away racing up there, perhaps going via the tanker to fill up with fuel again. And it was just this relentless kind of support until you ran out of weapons. And so you get through all eight paveways on both jets. And that would happen quite regularly. Other days you turn up, it would be quite quiet. There weren't any contacts happening on the ground, particularly at night sometimes, and you'd just be used for reconnaissance tasks or overwatch. You'd be called to a certain area to try and find something or look for something or report what you could see. So there was always something going on. You never just sort of sat in the aeroplane and did nothing. You were always used. But there were peaks and troughs to the sort of level of intensity of the sorties. Where you would go would completely vary. Every day was very different. And you'd sit on the tarmac on the runway, often at night, surrounded by thunderstorms, knowing that you had about 8 hours in the cockpit ahead, somewhere over Iraq and Syria, but you didn't really know where you were going to be going because you've got a limited amount of aircraft in the sky, and they needed to flex and to go to where they were most needed at the time. So you check in, you cross the border, you'd fill up with fuel from an air-to-air refueler, one of the tankers, and then you check in with a command and control aircraft that was up in the sky, and they would tell you where you were needed. And then you just hustle over there as quickly as you could and talk to the JTACs, who are the specialist soldiers on the ground who are trained at controlling airstrikes. You'd look at the best weapon for the strike, and how you're going to go about doing that, minimizing collateral damage and absolutely making sure that there was going to be no harm to friendlies. The final decision is normally made by the JTAC, and so he'll give you the clearance to strike, and on receipt of that clearance, then you can go ahead. A huge range of complex emotions go through your head. You're very aware of the risk that's involved. You're in an aircraft on your own, and you know that there are surface-to-air missiles around, so your wingman normally is looking out beneath the aircraft to make sure that you're sort of defending yourselves against that risk. So that's one of the things you're thinking about. I think your overriding emotion, though, is that you just want to get this done as quickly and as professionally as you can, because normally we were called in to drop weapons when there was a clear and huge risk to friendlies, and if we didn't get the weapons down quickly, then there was an immediate risk of loss of life from friendly troops. It was the JTAC's decision. He just said that there was a target. They were pinning down some friendly soldiers, and they requested the gun. And so that was the requirement, and it was a capability that we trained for and could use. So got visual with the target, and then from height rolled the aircraft down, accelerated so that the whole thing would happen quite quickly, tried to come out of the sun, and then fired a burst with the 27mm onto that target, and then recovered the aircraft quickly and climbed back up to height again, and got the camera back pointing on the ground. There were a few close shaves throughout the deployment. Certainly the strafe attack was pretty risky. One of the pilots was shot at by a surface-to-air missile and had to deploy countermeasures and watch this thing sail behind him, and luckily it didn't hit. I was locked up by a radar-guided surface-to-air missile at one point. And I had a very close call at night with a Voyager air-to-air refueling aircraft, where we were both put in the same piece of sky at the same time. And I flew past the wingtip of this thing, missing it by inches, and had to get out of the airspace pretty quickly after that.